Larissa Z., a mother.
Soon afterward, after the accident, they wanted to evacuate our village. Then they crossed it off their lists. The government didn't have enough money. And right away I fell in love. I got married. I didn't know we weren't allowed to love here. Many years ago, my grandmother read in the Bible that there would be a time when everything is thriving, everything blossoming and fruitful, and there would be many fish in the sea, in the rivers, and animals in the forest. But man won't be able to use any of it. He won't be able to propagate himself in his likeness, to continue his line. I listened to the old prophecies like they were scary fairy tales. I didn't believe them. My little daughter, Katya, she's different. She's not like the others. She's going to grow up and ask me, why aren't I like the others? When she was born, she wasn't a baby. She was a little sack sewed up everywhere, not a single opening, just the eyes. The medical card says, girl with multiple complex pathologies, aplasia of the anus, aplasia of the vagina, aplasia of the left kidney. That's how it sounds in medical talk, but it just means no pee-pee, no butt, one kidney. On the second day I watched her get operated on the second day of her life, she opened her eyes and smiled, and I thought she was going to start crying. But God, she smiled. The ones like her don't live, they die right away, but she didn't die because I loved her. In 4 years, she's had 4 operations. She's the only child in Belarus to have survived being born with such complex pathologies. I won't be able to give birth again. I wouldn't dare. I came back from the maternity ward and my husband would start kissing me at night and I would just lie there and tremble. I heard the doctors talking. That girl wasn't born in a shirt, she was born in a suit of armor. If we showed it on television, not a single mother would give birth. I went to church and told the priest that I was there nearby where it happened. He said I should pray for my sins. But no one in my family killed anyone. What am I guilty of? They made an anus for her, they made a vagina, but from here on, they advised us to seek medical help abroad. Where are we going to get tens of thousands of dollars if my husband makes $120 a month? One professor told us quietly, with her pathologies, your child is of great interest to science. You should write to hospitals in other countries. They should be interested. So I write. I write every half hour. We have to squeeze her urine out manually. How much longer can it go on? Take my girl, even if it's just to experiment. I don't want her to die. I'm all right with her becoming a lab frog, a lab rabbit, just as so long as she lives. Tell everyone about my daughter. Write it down. She's 4 years old and she can sing and dance. Oh, she knows poetry by heart. Her mental development is normal. But we've been living in a hospital with her for 4 years. We can't leave her here alone. When we go home for a month or two, she asks me, when are we going back to the hospital? That's where all her friends are. Where these children are growing up. I wanted to get papers. She'd know when she grows up that it wasn't our fault, my husband and I. I fought for 4 years. With the bureaucrats, the doctors, I knocked on doors of important people. It took me 4 years to get a paper from the doctors that confirmed the connection between iodized radiation and her terrible condition. They refused me for 4 years, kept telling me, oh, your child is a victim of congenital handicap. They refused me for 4 years. I studied my family tree. Everyone lived till they were 80 or 90. My grandfather only died at 94. The doctors said, we have instructions. We are supposed to call incidences of this type general sickness. In 20 or 30 years, when we have a database about Chernobyl, we'll begin connecting these cases to ionized radiation. One bureaucrat yelled at me, you want Chernobyl privileges, Chernobyl victim funds. Why I didn't faint in his office, I'll never know. Now I give pregnant women the strangest looks. I don't look. I glance real quick. I have all these mixed feelings, surprise and horror, jealousy and joy, even a feeling of vengeance. One time I caught myself thinking that I looked the same way at a neighbor's pregnant dog, at a bird in its nest. Oh, my girl, my Katia.
The fourth reactor, now known as the cover, still holds about 20 tons of nuclear fuel in its lead and metal core. No one knows what is happening with it. The sarcophagus was well made, uniquely constructed, and the design engineers from St. Petersburg should probably be proud. But it was constructed in absentia. The plates were put together with the aid of helicopters and robots, and as a result, there are fissures. According to some figures, there are now over 200 square meters of spaces and cracks, and radioactive particles continue to escape through them. Might the sarcophagus collapse? No one can answer that question, since it's still impossible to reach many of the connections and constructions in order to see if they are sturdy. But everyone knows that if the cover were to collapse, the consequences would be even more dire than they were in 1986.